Ladies and gentlemen, we meet again towards Parashat Kedoshim, towards Yom HaAtzmaut, and all this while we are already 7 months at war here in Israel, from the south, from the north, from all directions, and we have to try and make some sense of this by connecting all these ideas together. And for that, I would like to begin with a beautiful expression we have in our Parashat Kedoshim towards the end, that it tells us about the land of Israel, that it is Eretz Zavat Chalav Udvash. It is the land flowing with milk and honey. Although this expression does appear 21 times in the whole Tanakh, in this parasha, what has it got to do in this parasha? What is it telling us towards the end of this parasha? So we have to see what the parasha is talking about beforehand. Beforehand, it talks about 51 mitzvot. That is a big load of mitzvot, but I think one of the most central mitzvot in our parasha, and maybe one of the most famous ones, is Va'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You have to love your fellow Jew as you love yourself. You have to be sensitive. You have to be considerate. You have to be kind to your fellow Jew. Rabbi Akiva says, Ze klal gadol b'Torah. It's maybe one of the biggest rules we have in the Torah. And from here we can elaborate to the 10 Commandments. From the 10 Commandments we can elaborate to all the other mitzvot. And what is it here that in this parasha we have a land of flowing milk and honey? It's very, very simple. Because if we are taught to be sweet people, if we are sweet to each other, if we are v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, if we are sweet to the people who surround us, and we're considerate, and we're kind, and we're helpful, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu rewards us with a land which is sweet, with milk and honey. That is the reward. But I want to tell you about a question I had already as a teenager, many, many years ago, which is the following. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants tefillin. I understand mezuzah. I understand he wants kashrut. I understand he wants Shabbat. I understand. But why does he care how we relate to each other? What difference does it make if I'm kind or if I'm not kind to my fellow Jew? What difference does it make if I'm considerate or inconsiderate to my fellow Jew? And I didn't understand, why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu care about that? And once I became a father, and now as a grandfather, I can see when my children or my grandchildren are fighting, I feel terrible. I feel terrible. But when my children, grandchildren are collaborating, when my children and grandchildren are being kind to each other, they're being considerate to each other, there's no bigger Jewish nachas than that. Fantastic. And then, since then, I have no more questions. I understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be kind to each other. Makes sense in the most simple way. But what does it mean? I'm going now into the milk and honey. What does it mean that we have a land flowing milk and honey? So the Midrash Mechilta brings down a machloket between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Eliezer says it's from the vegetable world. That means chalav means fluids, sweet fluids from fruit, like from grapes, like white wine, and dvash. It's about the fruits. We know dvash as the last one of the 7 species. Eretz chitah sora gefen tenav v'rimon eretz zeit shemnu dvash. Dvash there means the sweetness from dates. That we know from dates we have silan, which is very sweet. So basically, they're sweet things from the vegetable world. According to Rabbi Akiva, he says no. These are sweet things from the animal world. Halav is cow's milk, which we all know, and dvash is honey from bees. And Rav Kook had an interesting take on that, because there was a lot of criticism on Rav Kook, that he used to go around and he loved the Jews in Israel, even those who were far away from the religion. And he was criticized from all directions. These people are against Judaism. So what if they've got kibbutzim and they're working the land, but how could you love them? And Rav Kook said the following. They might not be very Jewish at the moment, but the fact they're working the land and they love the land and they go out to the army and they serve and they mesirut nefesh, they're willing to put their life on the line for this land, this will change them around. And how do I know? Because it's a land of milk and honey. Because we know in kashrut that everything that comes out from an animal has the same law as the animal. If it's an egg from a rooster, from a chicken, and the chicken is kosher, so the egg is kosher. But if it's an egg from a snake, since a snake is not kosher, so the egg is not kosher. Anything comes out from the animal has the same law as the animal, except there are two exceptions to this. One is milk, and the other one is honey, because milk is milchik, and the cow is fleischik. And when we come to the bee is not kosher, but the honey that comes out of the bee is kosher. So he says, this is the land of milk and honey. This is the land that people who love this land can actually turn from milky to meaty. People who can actually turn from impure, like the bee, which is tamei, to pure honey, which is tahor, which we're allowed to eat. The land itself will turn these people around, and we're seeing it today. 100 years later, we can see in all these kibbutzim, they've got shuls, and they have mikvahs, and they have balei tshuva, and it is slowly happening. It's a process, but it's definitely happening. So flowing milk and honey talks about the powers of the land to bring the Jews back closer to Judaism. That was Rav Kook's answer at the time. So, ladies and gentlemen, this Shabbat, we celebrate Parashat Kedoshim of Vahavta L'Reacha Kamocha, and 7 months into the war, I can tell you the amount of kindness and the amount of people who are volunteering in so many levels, and the amount of people who were not even asked to get called up to the army, who just came to volunteer in the army. The amount of Vahavta L'Reacha Kamocha in the last 7 months has been incredible, and hopefully will last for many, many years to come. And when we come to Yom Ha'atzmaut, we're celebrating the fact that we have a land of milk and honey, and we're very successful with the milk and the honey, and it's very, very sweet. We are sweet to each other, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us a very sweet land. At the same time, we're at war for 7 months because we have a cruel enemy who is not sensitive, who is not considerate, who's done such terrible things, I don't want to even mention them. This is a war of our most central principles that we are defending. That is the land of milk and honey, and Vahavta L'Reacha Kamocha. That is what we're fighting for. And in Yitzhak Hashem, we're going to win this war with a great success. B'meira b'meinu.